Okay, in lesson 1.6 we looked at relations. Now we're going to look at a special kind of relation called a function. Alright, so in a function there can only be one x value for each y value. Alright, in other words, what does that mean? The x values can't repeat. We can't have 4 as an x value twice with two different y values. That makes it not a function. So how do we decide if a relation is also a function? Well, it depends on what form it's given to us. Remember, we looked at 4 different ways that we could write relations: ordered pairs, tables, mapping, or graph. So depending on what form it's in is how you decide whether or not it's a function. If it is ordered pairs or a table, we're just looking for repeating x values. So look down your table. Is there any number that appears more than one time in that x column? If there is, it's not a function. Look at your list of ordered pairs. If there's an x value that's the same for 2 different ordered pairs, it's not a function. If it's a mapping, we want to look at the arrows. So remember, if I have a mapping and a number repeats, I'm not going to write the number again, but I'm going to draw 2 arrows from that number. So if you have 2 arrows coming from an x value in a mapping, then it's not a function. If you're given a graph, we're going to do something called a vertical line test. So we're going to take our graph and we're going to draw a vertical line on that graph. And what we're looking at is my graph can only touch the vertical line in one place. If the line touches the graph in more than one place, then it would not be a function. And we're going to look at some examples so you can see better what I'm talking about. Okay, so the first one that we have here is a mapping. Okay, remember, for a mapping, I'm looking for an arrow going from more than one number. So if I look at my x values, every x value only has one arrow coming out from it. Now, over here, the y values, there's 2 arrows going to -1 and there's 2 arrows going to 4. That's okay because the y values can repeat, but in a function, the x values cannot. So our domain, every number has to have just one arrow coming out from it. So for this example, yes, it is a function. Alright, if I look at this one, I have a list of ordered pairs. So now I'm going to look at my x values. I have 2, -1, 5, and 2. Because the 2 is there twice, it repeats, so it is not a function. Alright, here's a graph, so this would be where we could use the vertical line. Alright, because I'm doing this on the computer, I actually have a little generated straight up and down vertical line. You can use your pencil. So I'm just going to slide this line along the graph. Alright, and I'm looking for any place where it might touch in more than one place. So right here, this vertical line is touching this dot and this dot at the same time. That means that this is not a function. Alright, the vertical line touches in 2 places, so not a function. Here's a table. So again, we're looking for repeats in the domain in the x values. I have 2, 5, 6, 6. 2 6s means no, not a function. Alright, now we have an equation. We're actually going to skip this for now, but you could graph this line. Maybe you were taught how to graph lines. If not, we're going to do them later in algebra. So I'm just going to skip this one for now. And then again, we have another graph here. So I'm going to go take this vertical line, I'm going to drag it over here, and now as I move my vertical line along the graph, is there any place where it touches that blue line in more than one place? I slide it along, it only ever touches it in one place, so that means yes, this is a function because it passes the vertical line test. This one failed because it touched those at the same time. Alright, then we have something called function notation. So if we have an equation that is a function, we can write it like this, and this is called function notation. Now, I don't want you to be confused. This f of x, that's how we read that, f of x. It does not mean f times x. Alright, it's just a different way of writing y. Alright, it says that this is a function of x. If I write it like this, it means that the equation is a function. If I write it like this, I'm not sure whether or not it's a function. Okay, so f of x, that's how we read that, and it's the same as y. So don't get confused if you see that. It doesn't mean you have to multiply f times x. Okay, it's just a different way of writing y. Okay, so now we have two examples where we're asked to find the range of f of x equals 2x minus 3. So here's my equation. Given the domain -2, -1, 0, 1. Well, I know that domain is x values, and they want me to find the range, which is y values. So I'm going to take each of these numbers, substitute them in for x, and then I can figure out what the range would be. So for the first one, okay, f of x equals 2x minus 3, and I'm going to substitute in -2. Alright, so oops, let me fix that. 2 times -2 minus 3. Alright, and what I'm doing here is I'm finding f of -2. I'm finding the value of the function, or the range of the function, at -2. 2 times -2 would be -4. -4 minus 3 would be -7. Alright, and I have to do that every time for all four of these numbers. So now I'm going to find f of -1. That's going to be equal to 2 times -1 minus 3. 2 times -1 is -2, minus 3 is -5. And I have f of 0. So I have 2 times 0 minus 3. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 3 is -3. And f of 1 is equal to 2 times 1 minus 3. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 3 is -1. So the range given this domain is -7, -5, -3, -1. Alright, and then we write those with those funky little bracket things. I don't draw them very well, so don't feel bad if you don't either. Alright, one more example. Again, same thing. You're given the domain, so you're given the x values and asked to find the range or the y values. What I want you to do is go ahead and figure out the range for this problem, and then we'll talk about it in class. At the bottom you have a little chart. I want you to go through and check off how you think you're doing on all of those different skills, so that we know what we need to review in class on Wednesday before our test on Friday.